Hello, it's Joe. Well, I think you've heard me talk in these videos a little bit about the 2010 Honda Accord. This is the V6. It's been a tremendous car. A few little things that have actually been an issue, but Honda have been very good at helping me out. One is the brakes do not seem to be coping that well. I have been experiencing quite a bit of brake fade. And also, obviously with brakes you get quite a lot of heat generated. Honda, since the mid-90s, have been going back to plastic caps here. And the little tabs on the inside, with the heat that gets generated, soften to the point at which the cap will loosen and eventually fall out. So I've only driven about 1,600 miles in this car, this 2010 Honda Accord. That just came off the assembly line last month. And two caps fell out. The good news is I called Honda of America, and they opened up a case ID, and they took the concern very seriously. And I went to a Honda dealership, and they replaced the two caps for me, or gave them to me to put on myself, free of charge. My concern obviously is that these will loosen again, and I think Honda need to consider either going back to metal, or on the inside there used to be like a little spring clip that was metal that would keep the plastic from softening. Right now this piece is just purely plastic. So for an extra 5 cents or 10 cents, my recommendation to Honda would be to either put that plastic clip on the inside, which I believe you have on the SUV center caps, or just go back to metal. The discs themselves, I think this car is a little bit too heavy for a disc rotor setup of that size, and I have, as you know, been experiencing brake fade. Not permanent, of course. When the brakes cool down, everything's been fine. There's no disc warpage or anything like that, but these rotors are not able to deal with this weight of car at highway speeds, in my experience. So I think another inch or so of diameter would be good there. If I were to do a modification to the car, which I would not want to, it would probably be to upgrade the front brakes. The rear brakes, obviously very little goes on back here, much less heat. The caps didn't loosen up at all, and those were fine. After just 15 or 1,600 miles of driving, the lug nuts on the front wheels were actually quite loose. Now maybe you would expect that, but another point for Honda engineers is that there was enough heat being generated here that maybe the torque spec from the factory needs to be a little bit higher on the front wheels, because the Honda dealership gave me their torque wrench. Well, they didn't give it to me. The guy came out and used their torque wrench, which is set by the factory engineers, and we put a good quarter turn into these lug nuts. They weren't quite hand loose, but they were quite loose. So again, for a car that's off the assembly line just a month ago, that was of concern. The final little point is that the Michelin's tires are a great tire. I have been keeping them at stock pressure, as per the manufacturer's recommendation, or Honda's recommendation in the door jamb, which I believe is 32 psi. What I'm finding is that the scrubbing on the tire wall is actually coming down below the recommended marking from Michelin. So the outside tire wall has been somewhat compromised. And again, this is at stock pressure. I'm not quite sure what that means, but you can actually see it's been scrubbing all the way down to about here. And again, these tires have not been let go below stock pressure. They've been 32 psi front and rear cold, as per in the door jamb. We can quickly verify that. I think I have the keys real quick, but we can just take my word for it. I believe it is 32 psi for these Michelins, front and rear, in the door jamb. Let's take a look here real quick. There you see. Rear and front is 32 psi. So when I got the car actually from Honda, that's what it was, and I've been checking it ever since. And that's what it's remained, and we are definitely getting scrubbing down the sidewall of these excellent Michelin tires, dangerously low. So these sidewalls, in my opinion, have been compromised, and this tire is not to be trusted that much, even though they're practically brand new. So I'm not quite sure what to suggest, other than I think the PSI in the front should be a little bit higher. On the rear, we really don't have that issue. The sidewalls have scrubbed down a little bit, but not like the fronts. You can see it's down to the manufacturer's marks here, but on the front we're going down significantly lower. So we're getting a lot of sidewall roll on the front. I would obviously want to, I guess, experiment a little bit with this, but my best guess would be 36 psi on the front and 32 on the rear. I'm also quite surprised that whoever recommends the tire pressure would have it symmetric both front and rear for a car that is obviously much heavier on the front. Other cars I've had, you would have 32 on the front and say 26 on the rear. So there could be a number of factors there, but overall those are my critiques, I guess, of this amazing Honda Accord 2010 V6, which I've had the pleasure and delight of driving these last 1,600 miles or so. And with that, I'm done.